Welcome, folks. I just had to jump on here live. Currently, right now, the New York Mets are facing the Chicago Cubs, and they are getting the crap beat out of them. Currently, it is 8-2, and the Mets looking horrible. And this game couldn't have started off any worse. Right after, a day after you have a bad pitching performance from David Peterson going one inning. Today, you have just as bad of a bad performance from Tong going 2 innings. So, folks, right now, we are fighting for our lives. It is 8-2. You have the top of the sixth inning. We are in Chicago. Currently, right now, we have Pete Alonso at the dish. And you know what? Are the Mets going to show any life whatsoever? Thus far, the top of the Mets lineup has done nothing. You have no hits from Lindor. You have no hits from Soto. The only life you had here, and this is why I jumped on, Francisco Alvarez, he hits a 2-run bomb. So I'm like, okay, we inch a little closer. It's 6-2. But you know what? It doesn't seem like it was meant to be, because the next inning, the Mets, the biggest problem would rear its ugly head. Bad defense led to 2 more runs scoring. And I mean, these were ugly plays. Mark Vientos, Francisco Alvarez can't get his body in front of a ball. And the Cubs scored 2 more runs, and you got a 6-run deficit. And again, the Mets are right now, this is how they fight. I'm just hoping. Another miracle can happen. But again, yesterday, the Mets had a claw from a 5-run deficit. They used up their whole bullpen. And today, again, you're not in a good position. You are not in a good position. And yeah, what's up, Richard? 8-2. I know, Will, you said earlier today, we did a live stream, Fool's Gold, after the come from behind win yesterday. Everybody was feeling good. But the New York Mets, again, this is kind of who they are. You have no starting pitching, 0 starting pitching, and you have no fundamental defense. And I love the way this game started. It started pretty good. Tong, had to fight through that first inning. He puts the first 2 guys on base. First guy gets a hit. Second guy, he walks. And then he gets a big strikeout. And then you have this was one of the best throws I've seen all year. Tyrone Taylor throws a ballistic missile from center field, nabs the guy at the plate. I'm like, okay, you know what? Tyrone Taylor is back. Maybe that's going to lead to the rest of the team playing more fundamental defense. But you know what? No. So again, the Mets right now are in the 6th inning, and hopefully, if we can just get a run here and there, and we'll see what happens. So hopefully, you are all like, I can't say you're enjoying this game unless you're a Cubs fan. But I'm telling you, Richard, you're right. I don't know what I'm going to do without the Mets for 6 months. It's going to be one of the most intriguing offseasons. Whenever the Mets go to offseason, we're hoping they make the playoffs. But this offseason is going to be dissected from day one because of the fact that this team literally has 0 starting pitching the second half. Yes, we're relying on some young kids right now, but you take those 3 kids away, we're left with David Peterson, Clay Holmes, Sean Manaea, Kodai Senga. Half those guys aren't even in the starting rotation. David Peterson, the other guy that's in the starting rotation, has pitched over an 8 ERA down the stretch. So you're virtually left with 0 talent in this starting rotation. So, it is really not good right now. It is not good. And again, I'm just hoping right now we have a couple innings left. We got 3 more innings left. If we could just get a couple runs in the 7th, get a couple runs in the 8th. I know I'm asking for a lot because we still have to hold the Cubs from scoring, and we have to do this with virtually no bullpen. Dan, you're right. This team ain't making the playoffs, and if they do, they don't deserve it. Half the league goes to the playoffs now anyway. Well, what I've been saying the last couple of days is the biggest thing the Mets have going for them is that the teams behind them are just as bad, if not worse. So that's the biggest thing the Mets have is the teams behind them suck as well. And that's not a good thing to have going for you. Giovanni, I absolutely hear you on that one. I'm out of gas. Disappointing game. Go Pirates. Go Dodgers. And that is just so sad. It's so sad that we got a scoreboard watch. We got to be able to take care of business. So many times, I feel, again, we're relying on other teams to beat, the opponents that are following us, and, the Mets got to get to a point where they can have some type of consistent play. And I don't know if this can be done. I mean, if you cannot play fundamental baseball, how are you going to compete consistently? Now we have Sean Manaea on the mound. Sean Manaea is currently in the game. So, we got to hope against hope. I mean, the thing is, Sean Manaea is, the good thing about him being in the game right now is he's been an underdog, a really big underdog his last couple outings. If he has a really good performance, hopefully that can inspire the team. All right, let's line drive, bullet to left field. Right on cue, Sean Manaea enters the game. First guy gets a hit. Damn. Oh, look at that look. Did you see the Carlos Mendoza look? I wonder what Carlos Mendoza is going to say after the game. Oh, we got the talent. We got to execute. We got to win. We got to do it. I'm tired of that nonsense. I am tired of hearing the same old garbage. You got to win. You're down 8-2 right now. You got to chip away. And you got to hold the lead. Right now, the guy steals a base. And, the funny thing is, I say you got to play fundamental baseball. The Cubs, they're playing fundamental baseball. PCA, last inning, stealing a run. Now, you get on base. You steal a base. The Cubs are going to show you how to get a run. Folks, I mean, like, honestly, this is a joke. Guy just hits a two-run bomb. Sean Manaea. Why the hell is Sean Manaea in there? I know you got nobody else to go to, but this is, the sad state of the affairs. The New York Mets right now are just showing you kind of, this is. I don't even know what to say. I really don't know what to say. It's getting worse and worse by the second. I mean, honestly, right now, just because I can't take it, I probably just need to walk away from the TV screen. But I'm stuck right in front of a TV screen right now. Yeah, well, Will, this is the first time I've ever jumped on in the middle of a game. Damn, I am bad luck. I mean, it's not like the Mets were doing any better before I jumped on anyway. But I'm telling you, I've been saying Sean Manaea has been done for quite a while. I mean, I haven't seen this guy. I mean, if you listen to Carlos Mendoza, no matter who he's talking about, if he's talking about Jonah Tong, if he's talking about Sean Manaea, if you ask him what went wrong, oh, he's not elevating his fastball. I don't know how many more times I got to hear that the only issue is the guy's not elevating his fastball. That's the reason why the other team is doing well. No, Michelle Mania, his stuff is just not playing well this year. He's got no control. Every time he throws a meatball in the middle of the plate, it gets smoked. And Jonah Tong, I feel bad for the kid. He was put out there in such a bad situation. The kid's got two pitches right now, a fastball and a changeup. Fastball and a changeup. The kid needs more developing, but you throw him out there in the middle of a pennant race and say, "Here, kid, win me a ball game," and it's just really not fair. I apologize, everyone. Since I've jumped on, it looks like the game has gone from bad to much, much worse. And yesterday, I mean, we ended up winning the game, but you had to exhaust your whole bullpen, and that leads us to going to Holmes and now Shermania. And Shermania, I'm telling you, this could go down as one of the worst signings in the Mets history. We have this guy on the team for another 3 years. Wow, it's making me sick just thinking about that. I mean, the only good thing to report right now is it's bottom of the 11th. Pirates are winning 4-3, but I think I'm clicking on it right now. I think the Reds have the bases loaded, so it's 2 outs. So that's a very tough situation. We got to see what happens. Yeah, Will, I see the thing about Mania's elbow is being hurt. Like I see everybody say he's got an elbow injury. I hear everybody say that, but I don't hear the Mets saying that. And I see him out there every single couple of days. So if he's really that hurt and it's hurting the team that much, why would he still be out there? That's why I can't really think that the injury is that significant, or else it would be just so negligent for the Mets to put him out there. Although, the Mets have played Lindor hurt, they've playing Alvarez hurt, but I just don't think they would do that with a guy that they still owe $50 million after this year. But again, the Mets have made very silly decisions one after the next. I miss Canning, McGill, Canning, McGill. Yes, I'm not going as far as Montage yet. Although as bad as Senga and Mania's pitch, maybe. Explosive, you're right. I can't wait for the season to end. And Andy Martino, I know he's always the bearer of great news for Mets fans, to drop the news about Soto and Lindor and the toxic clubhouse that this team had. And folks, if the Mets don't find a way to make the playoffs, those storylines are going to come out one after the other, after the other, after the other. The Mets can they can right the ship if they could somehow find a way to get in, and they are doing a hell of a job today in the wrong way. But the Mets need to make the playoffs, or else it's going to be like hell on earth for the New York Mets, especially their media department, because guys like Andy Martino, Anthony DiComo, Will Salmon, Tim Britton, they're all going to dig down deep. Why the hell did a $350 million team fail this miserably? And you know what? You already heard it from guys like Jose Iglesias, and they're already finger pointing, and they're already saying the chemistry in that clubhouse is not good. And you're not hearing it from guys on the outside like me. You're not hearing it from reporters. You're hearing it from guys who are in that clubhouse, who have friends in that clubhouse, and they're saying that the chemistry is not good. So, you know, who are we to say who are not in the clubhouse that it's not an issue? Because it seems like it's got to be some type of issue because the New York Mets aren't playing fundamental. They play like little leaguers on defense. Their offense is so damn inconsistent. They have one of the hottest offensive months in August and still find a way to be losers. They still find a way to be losers in August. Now down the stretch, they are supposedly going to turn it on. They're going to turn the switch. Why are they going to turn the switch? Because we have the experience. We have the talent. Everybody's in that clubhouse has been here before. No, it's been the same broken record that has done nothing but get worse and worse. All right, we got a single by Nimmo. He gets on base. And honestly, folks, I'm hoping for a pulse here. The Mets are down 10-2, but I'm hoping for a pulse. Hopefully we can score some runs. Alvarez is the only one right now playing with heart. What's up, Eric? Honestly, everybody's got to agree with this. No pitching. Then you write, period. Stern sucks. I don't care how they get along. Pitching sucks. You know what, folks? I don't think there's anybody that's going to disagree with the starting pitching. The starting pitching has been horrendous, and that has put this team in so many bad holes. Bad holes. You know, when was there ever a year? I don't remember a year for a very long time, probably a couple of decades, where the starting pitching has been this bad, right? Go back. I just don't remember where consistently every single game you got to worry about the starter blowing it. This is so bad, especially for a team that spent $350 million. Yeah, Dan, I mean, keep the trash cans coming. Minaya trash, Peterson trash, Sanger trash. And I don't like to say this, but they're all pitching to not even respectable. It's not like, oh, they're pitching to a 4 ERA. All those guys are pitching close, all above a 6 ERA. You know, some of them above an 8 ERA. It's just so abysmally bad. See, Alvarez, he strikes out on an outside pitch on the outside corner. That's a tough pitch for a guy to handle that with a torn ligament in his hand. I'll tell you that. You know, he did it. It was a little more center cut in the last one that he hit over the left field fence. But, I give Alvarez all the credit in the world. I really do. Great shot yesterday. Today, a 2-run bomb. But again, the offense has done absolutely zippo today. Lindor, again, I said this before. Lindor, no hits. Soto, no hits. Alonso, no hits. Marte, no hits. McNeil, no hits. Tyrone Taylor, no hits. The only guys who have a hit is you have Vientos, Nimmo, and Alvarez. And Vientos' hit was, you could have scored it in error. So the Mets technically have 2 hits. They have 2 solid hits today. And again, they have a couple misplays. They have 1 error on the board, but, you could give them 2 errors depending on how you want to score the pass ball. You know what, Dan? Okay, I'm going to put this comment up because Yankee fans are really going to be laughing at us. Yankee fans, honestly, most Yankee fans got to worry about their own team. They haven't won in a while, and the Mets fans obviously have issues. We have issues. We have a team right now in crisis. It's blatantly obvious. There's no Met fan that is going to dispute that fact. We have to fix this. We agree. And if the Yankee fans wants to focus on laughing at us, I don't give a damn. I really don't give a damn. I just want my team to be much, much better. I mean, in fact, right now, they're just so bad that sometimes I have to laugh just to be sane, just so I can go to sleep at night. It's just that bad. Marcus, you're right. Every game is an emotional roller coaster. They suck when they lose, and they're awesome going to the playoffs when they win. I mean, they're just right now, if they make the playoffs, it'll just be because of the teams behind them being just that much worse. And if they do make it in, they're going to be backing in. They're going to be backing in the worst way. And at that point, I hope we can shock the world. But if you're not going to play fundamental defense and you have zero confidence in your starting pitchers besides Nolan McLean, how the hell are you going to win a series? I mean, we would have to be hoping for miracle after miracle after miracle after miracle. I mean, the Mets right now, this is supposed to be when the team is playing at 100%, where they're playing their best baseball, when everybody supposedly turned it on, and you see what we're seeing. The Mets lose 2 out of 3 to the Nationals. The Mets right now are getting crushed by the Cubs. Yesterday, Peterson took a beating on the mound. You know, you had a couple big hits yesterday. You had Nimmo with the 3-run bomb. You had Alvey with the 2-run homer. You know, without those hits, we lose. And then, you know, when you combine that with the National Series, in the last 4 or 5 games, the Mets have not looked very good at all. I don't know what the hell I'm watching on TV. There's a bunch of garbage bags on the screen. McNeil is polishing his golf clubs right now. You know what? This is one of the reasons why I'm going to be interested in and I'm going to every single day. And this is what we love to do here in Dominant Mets Nation. So if you're not subscribed, most of you are. I know 99% of you. But we're going to dig down every single day. We're going to figure out what the hell is going on because the Mets got to revamp everything. McNeil, I don't expect him back next year. Nimmo, I don't know, but you got to make changes. The guy can't play left field anymore. The guy cannot play left field anymore. Then you got to go to the infield. What are you going to do with Pete Alonso at first base? Is he going to be part of the core that you bring back? I mean, I like the fact that the guy drives in a lot of runs, that he's a run producer. But, if you look back in the last 6, 7 years, I mean, what have you won with him? And if he's got any tension going with Juan Soto, you got Juan Soto here for 15 years. So David Stearns is going to have a hell of a job building both sides of the ball. Obviously, you got to fix the defense. You got to fix that clubhouse chemistry. But most of all, you got to build a starting rotation and you got to build a bullpen. Virtually, you have to rebuild everything. So, you guys are saying it right in the chat. I mean, besides Nolan McLean, Brandon Sproat, I've liked what I've seen of him. Jonah Tong, I'm really not going to judge him. It's not fair to judge the kid who you're putting him out there in such high stakes when he should still be down in the minors for another season. He should still be down there. You want to know why, folks? Because he's only got 2 pitches. And a starting pitcher cannot be successful at age 22 with 2 damn pitches. All he has is the fastball and the Vulcan changeup. He has trouble throwing the curve, and he has trouble throwing the slider. So that's why this kid right now is literally fighting with one arm, and I feel bad for him. But you know what? Maybe this will make him tougher mentally, and if they could, make that slider and make that curveball extra weapons, now the kid can go out there and fight with a legitimate slate of weapons. Right now, it's tough. And I keep showing images of him right now with that sad look on his face. And, I don't blame him. He's in a tough spot, but it's not all his fault at all. What's up, G Money? Francisco Lindor, yes, he did homer yesterday. That was a shot. That's the type of shot that I like to see Lindor go oppo, go with the pitch. Oh my God. Every single play is a challenge. I mean, Vientos just threw the ball to Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso barely held the base. Every single play is, you got to hold your breath. Unbelievable. Unreal. Every single play. Okay, but like I was saying, Lindor, yes. That version of Lindor I love. I mean, hopefully he gets his 30th home run. It looks like, every single season now the guy's almost an automatic 30-30. But again, at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure Lindor would trade not getting that 30th home run for the Mets making the playoffs. Hey, Dana, sell Alonso. Well, I think Alonso right now has a very strong possibility of not being signed by the Mets. It was asked, and I was reading an article today, do the Mets not making the playoffs, does that affect Pete's, ability to sign with them? Like if he sees the Mets as non-contenders or as their situation being, up in the air, well, it was said that it doesn't matter. Pete's going to go where they offer him the most money, So, everybody who's worried about, hey, if the Mets aren't good or have a crap load of bad stuff happening, will that affect them from getting Pete? No, he's going where they're paying him the most money. Is that going to be David Stearns? I really kind of don't think so because the Mets right now have a lot of issues right now. And Michael, I see you saying Alonso's not easily replaced. I think the New York Mets are going to change the way they play baseball because the way they play baseball right now is not working. Not working. The home run ball, a couple years ago, the Yankees, they kind of coined, Bronx Bombers. Obviously that was, 30, not 80, 90, 100 years ago. But, home runs were synonymous with the Yankees scoring by the long ball. But, there's other ways of scoring. You saw the Cubs a couple innings ago, putting at bats together. PCA produced a run. New York Mets got to get younger. They got to get faster. They got to get more fundamental. Pete Alonso, even on defense, that throw to first base when a grounder goes to first and you have the pitcher covering the first base bag. How many times has Pete Alonso sailed that ball? That is unacceptable. If you do that once this season, twice this season, maybe that's not good. But Pete's already done that. What? It feels like 10 times. And not only is that a bad play, that puts your pitcher in such danger. A couple days ago, Nolan McLean's on the mound, and you have Pete Alonso sailing the ball. God forbid Nolan McLean comes down on his ankle, his knee, and has some type of tear. That would be disastrous just because the guy can't make an accurate throw to first base. So, it's stuff like that fundamentally where you got to tie up. And then I ask myself, how much is Pete Alonso even working on that play? So, again, you got to put in the effort. And right now, I all around, I don't want to just blame Alonso. Nimmo outfield and his outfield defense has gone from, you put him in center field a couple of years ago and it got to a pretty decent level, but it's come down drastically so much. And I know Nimmo doesn't have an arm. He's never had an arm. But the way he, goes after balls and the way he looks in the outfield is just so horrendous lately. And again, folks, we are in the top of the 8th inning, and I'm still looking for a pulse. Somebody get a couple. It's right now we're only going to score with a home run. Let's put some hits together. That's what I talk about, changing the way we play baseball. Can we have 3 or 4 big hits, 3 doubles in a row? Let's get our bats hot. I mean, we only have how many hits in a game now? We still only have 3 hits in the game. And again, the 3 hits are 1 from Alvi, 1 from Nimmo, and you have that 1 hit from Vientos that still could have been scored in error. So again, the New York Mets are still not getting it going. All right, Lindor, he's working the count full. Lindor just gets under it. It hits a very shallow fly ball to right field. Just another out. Can of corn for Seiya Suzuki. Folks, thank you for jumping in. Apologize. I was hoping that the Mets would have a magical comeback. Remember to hit the like button. Please hit the like button. I thank you in advance. Yeah, so I see what you wrote, explosive. The team is leaderless. The team has no leader, and that's a big problem. The team is leaderless. They don't play with fundamentals. They have bad defense. They have no starting pitching. Their offense is so inconsistent. Their manager makes me pull my hair out half the times. I mean, their general manager doesn't believe in spending money in the starting rotation. All right, breaking the action, we have a home run by Mr. Juan Soto. He goes deep for his 43rd homer of the year, and we have the Cub fan. He looks like about a 60-year-old man. He throws the ball. He threw the ball pretty far. The guy's got a pretty good arm, probably about the strength of Brandon Nimmo. He threw the ball back onto the field, and the Mets right now are behind 7 runs. So, chipping away. But that is classic Soto right there. That is classic Soto hitting a pop fly ball to left center field. So he hits it oppo, and it just carries and carries. And, that's just classic Soto. I know they mentioned with those type of home runs that he's got this special top spin. The ball doesn't come out of the air. I don't know. I mean, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. And Juan Soto, 43 home runs, 36 stolen bases. Not a great defender, but I gotta say this offensive season, despite having a bad May and a bad April, has been very, very, very good for Juan Soto. And I know there are critics who are saying, hey, Juan Soto, he's had a decent year, but his batting average is still in the 260s. Well, batting average is not what it used to be. But if you look at the advanced stats, Juan Soto's expected batting average is 300. So that factors in how hard he hits the ball, how much he squares up the ball, so his expected batting average is well higher than his actual batting average, which kind of shows you that he's actually hit into quite a bit of bad luck. Will, you commented a couple of comments back. This offense has to be built around Soto. And I 100% believe that's the way the Mets are going to go. And I think we're going to see drastic changes. And that means Pete Alonso, as much as people don't want to hear it, there's a strong possibility that Pete Alonso's not going to be here. There's a strong possibility that, hey, I don't know who would take Brandon Nimmo. The guy's got 5 years left. I believe 5 years left at $20+ million. DH, yeah, he could be a DH. Where else are you going to put him on the field where the defense is not going to hurt you? You put him in center field, defense is going to hurt you more. Left field, we saw the defense hurt us a lot. His defense hurt us a lot in left field. So this could really be the end of the core. Jeff McNeil, I don't expect him to be back next year. I would expect a lot of changes. It's going to have to take a lot of effort from David Stearns. In my opinion, David Stearns hasn't really done a lot of heavy lifting. Really hasn't done a lot of heavy lifting. He's made a lot of easy signings. Juan Soto, that was a very easy fix. Get the best player in baseball on the free agent list. That was easy. It would have been harder to do what other teams would have done. And I got to admit, what the Yankees did, replacing him, that's harder to do than signing Juan Soto. So, the Mets have to look outside the box because their thing right now of signing, their young premium bat and then putting other crappy pitchers in the pitching lab and crossing their fingers and hoping the Frankie Monteses of the world work out and hoping that Sean Manaea can continue to develop into something he's never been for his entire career, hoping that works, and then hoping, other stuff happens that's never really, been in reality. That's not a plan. It's really not a plan. And again, now we have Ryan Helsley in the game, and that's just another example of David Stearns' ineptitude this year. And I got to say, I have been one of the biggest proponents of David Stearns. I have backed him at every single stop. But again, I got to say, last year he failed at the trading deadline. He failed this year in the offseason. He failed this year at the trading deadline. He failed this year throughout the year making any trades of significance. He's failed this year making any significant pickups, waiver moves. So David Stearns deserves, in my opinion, a big fat F. A big fat F. Big fat F. Only thing is, you could say that some of the young pitchers have developed. That's the only thing that you could say, maybe give him an F+. Yeah, Alan, I'm with you. I want to see Mauricio more. If you got the right package and some team is over the moon on him, I'm not opposed at trading him, but I still want to see more of Mauricio. We got to remember one thing about Mauricio. He's coming back from, I believe, a torn ACL. A lot of guys don't produce or get back to that level that they were at before the injury until a year after they come back. So, that being said, Mauricio should be at the best you're going to see him in the beginning of next season. So I'm still willing to stick with Mauricio. The guy's got talent. He's got tools, a switch hitting shortstop, third baseman. I'm willing to give that guy a chance. Good defensive player. He's got power galore. From the left side, the right side, you got to work with him a little more, but he's got tools. He's got talent. I'd still like to see him on this Mets team in the future. Explosive. You wrote, what grade does Cohen and Mendoza get? Cohen, right now I can't give a grade on him. I really can't. Mendoza, my take on Mendoza is a very rough. Is very very rough. My take on Mendoza is that honestly, at the end of the year, if we don't make the playoffs, and this is my take, you could be 100% against it. That this being said, this year was supposed to be the year where we go for a World Series. We go all in, spending $350 million. We were supposed to grow from last year. We were supposed to, obviously everything was supposed to get better. But I feel we regressed in such a bad way. Now, comments from Iglesias saying that the chemistry is bad is very telling, and it's very damning because that damns the leaders. That is very bad. Like a guy like Iglesias saying, now this year, 2025, your team has no chemistry. Well, what are the leaders? You have Carlos Mendoza in there saying the same thing over and over. Carlos Mendoza never saying, what are we doing different? Carlos Mendoza never giving anybody any answers. You saw, if you're a Knicks fan, you saw the New York Knicks get to 2 games shy of the NBA championship, and the New York Knicks' only goal right now is to win a championship, and they fired their coach, Tom Thibodeau. They fired their coach, and that guy made the playoffs every single year, but the goal for the New York Knicks supposedly is to win a championship. Now, that being said, the New York Mets are playing much worse than the New York Knicks have played, and, I got to say right now, Mendoza right now does not look like he could be the answer anytime in the near future. He doesn't. It looks like we're going to have to rebuild this team next year. And we're going to have to rely on a leader, a guy who's a commanding presence, a guy who can, take that team next year and can make them into a World Series competitor. I don't think that Carlos Mendoza has that type of skill to do so. Do I think Carlos Mendoza in 3 to 5 years, can he get there? Yeah, maybe. A lot of guys can. But Carlos Mendoza next year, I don't think he has the ability. I just don't. So that being said, if we're spending this much and investing this much, and our core is win now. We have Lindor, win now player. Diaz is in his 30s. If you resign Pete Alonso, he's in his 30s. We have a lot of win now players, so we need a win now manager. How did what do you mean when Pete matched Soto? Yeah, Giovanni, as far as will he be here? Well, David Stern said on August 26th on some podcast that he will be here next year. So, that's from David Stern's mouth. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. But he already said that Carlos Mendoza is going to be here next year. And I have no clue why, when in the middle of the team failing over and over and over, you have to announce that the manager is going to be here for the following year. Can't we just win this year and then focus on next year after the season's over? And well, you're right. It's up to the president and the GMs to make the moves and get the right players in here. And thus far, I mean, you got to say we've been unsuccessful in doing that. Last couple years, the New York Mets have not gotten the right pieces in here. And Yeah, I mean, it's really been tough. I mean, you think back to a couple years ago when we got Scherzer, we got Verlander. You're thinking that was the direction. Then New York Mets. All right, you know what? Maybe it's not the best thing to invest all this much money in starting pitchers, especially starting pitchers that are really old. That's not the right approach. All right, so we'll invest in young hitters, young offensive players. We might invest in a young pitcher who's 24, 25, like a Roki Sasaki. Although he wasn't you didn't have to pay him that much. You just had to have him be interested in coming to the New York Mets. All right, so it looks like the best thing out of tonight. So the best thing that's going to come out of tonight, and this is a little bit sad, but I'll take it. The Reds lost. The Reds lost, and looks like the D-backs right now are trailing the Dodgers in the third inning. So again, you have the Reds losing, and you have the D-backs trailing. I'm sorry, it's in the bottom of the fourth inning. You have the Dodgers winning 3-1. So it looks like even though the Mets are going to be completely pummeled, they are 2 outs away from being completely pummeled. It looks like they won't lose any ground. And it's sad in a way because the Mets should be building a lead. But again, we gotta sweat it out. We're probably going to sweat it out until game 162. So I mean, at least last year we had one game to rest. This year, it's probably going to come right down to that Sunday game with the Marlins. All right, 1 strike away. So the next 2 games are going to be extremely important, hoping to get some length. We have Nolan McLean going up against Shota Imanaga. And there we go. 5-3 put out. Nimmo grounds out to third base, and the Cubs win 10-3. New York Mets lose a doozy. Not showing any fight, not showing any life. Jonah Tong didn't last long. 2 innings, looked terrible. The kid, again, can't blame it all on the kid. The kid looks like all he has is a fastball and a changeup. The curveball is not developed. The slider's not developed. He only threw those pitches 3 times. The New York Mets got out to a very big deficit early on. They had to go to Richard Lovelady in the 3rd inning on a situation where the New York Mets bullpen was completely depleted. The New York Mets would allow 2 more runs after being down 6 runs. it made it into an 8-2 deficit. Can't play defense, and at the end of the day, we just got to get much, much better. And we're going to have to hope, pray, do whatever you got to do. Do the voodoo, whatever you got to do. We got to make sure that Nolan McLean and Brandon Sproat, 2 days in a row, go out there and give us length. That's what you got to hope. That's what you got to, whatever we got to do, that's what needs to be done. This bullpen needs to rest. And I'm just, those last couple games, and every game from here on out, it's all bets are off. Mets got to do whatever they got to do to win. And can they rely on any of the people they thought they could rely on? Sean Manaea? No. Kodai Senga? No. Clay Holmes? No. So Helsley? No. It's very, very tough. You thought you could rely on some of these, high-priced arms, but again, we've wasted so much money. I mean, Frankie Montas, again, I don't think you're going to ever see him. He's probably not going to pitch for another year and a half, or, he's having time. He's having surgery. It's not going to be good. But again, we're not relying on him. Tyler McGill, he's having surgery. Griffin Canning. I mean, all the guys that I'm like, okay, I hope we don't have to rely on. But at the end of the year, I'm like, wow, I wish I was seeing these guys. I'm just going to say one thing. The Mets going into the National Series a couple of days ago, we were 2 games up on the wild card. I was feeling good. I was feeling happy. I was feeling confident. Then we lost that series. And on Sunday night, we were knocked out of the playoffs. And I was feeling down. I was feeling really down. And I said on this morning, we did a live stream, 8 o'clock in the morning. And I said that was the worst I felt on Sunday night since 07. Since 07, 06. The Mets right now, again, I felt that it was good that the Mets got knocked out of the playoffs because they got to see how it felt to be on the outside looking in. But again, in these last 2 days, I haven't seen good, clean, crisp baseball, and I haven't seen any good pitching. And I'm waiting to see. You need pitching, and you usually need defense in the playoffs to advance, and you need timely hitting. So far, I haven't really seen that. So I don't know. I mean, again, I got to hope and pray that things change. What's up, Stanley? Mets are still in the wild card hunt, but no thanks to the way the Mets are playing. No thanks to them. The reason why the Mets are still in it, and I will keep repeating this, the teams behind them are horrible. The teams behind the New York Mets, let's be serious. The Reds and the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks traded, all their couple of their top players away at the trading deadline. They didn't expect that they'd be in it, but the fact of the matter is the New York Mets have fell so damn far that it opened the door for teams like the Reds, for teams like the D-backs to say, all right, the New York Mets, they're giving it to us. Let's just step right in. And if we can get into the wild card third position with 83, 84 wins, then you know what? That's doable for us. But again, the New York Mets, they're not doing it. They're almost 20 games under 500 since the middle of June. I mean, hearing that come out of my mouth, that the fact that the Mets are almost 20 games, I think it's 18 games under 500 since June 13, but it's something very, very, very bad. Alan, you're right. Even if they back into the playoffs, where are they going? Well, I'm hoping this, and I had this scenario in my mind that the New York Mets play better if they're the underdogs. So hopefully, if they can get in, the expectations will be really, really low because of the way we got in. Hopefully, then we can somehow shock the world. Hopefully, and you just never know. I mean, you get into the playoffs. The other team, maybe, they have a big injury or they get cold. It's also this thing that I've been saying for months and months if you're a team and you could somehow get hot at the right time, anything can happen in baseball. Anything can happen. I know thus far, through almost 160 games, the New York Mets don't look like, they could get to the promised land. And I'm not going to argue that they look anywhere close to being a World Series team. But the first 2 months, if they could capture any of that magic that they had in the first 2 months, to deal with Kodai Senga being good, that had to do with Griffin Canning being good, that had to do with David Peterson being good. I know that those factors were very, very big components to what the New York Mets were able to do early on. But again, let's see. You got to be in it to win it. And if the Mets somehow find a way to back into the playoffs, crazier things have happened. The Mets have the talent offensively. I know, Will, you've been the guy, I gotta say, this whole year keeping me like anytime I get too high, not this year. And you've been saying it the whole year. And you've been right a lot of the times. Every time the Mets go on a 2-3 game winning streak, and I'm like, yes, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. You're like, calm down. The Mets aren't that good. And unfortunately, you've been right more times than less. I wish you were wrong, but the New York Mets have not really looked that good. There we go. Sometimes the blind squirrel finds the nut. Yeah, hopefully October becomes that time of the year where the New York Mets, are the blind squirrel and find the nut. There you go. There we go. Look at the positivity right now. The Mets get blown out 10-3. I like this talk. The Mets are going to win the World Series. Zig, dude, the first 2 months was a cakewalk. All teams under 500. You know how many teams we've lost to with an under 500 the second half of the year? So, I mean, I'm happy we were beating anybody. All right, folks. Right now, one player you want to acquire for 2026 that you think will have a big impact. Let's drop it. Anybody can think of that one player that you think will have the biggest impact. Explosive. Jose Iglesias, is that who you're talking about? I mean, honestly, those Jose Iglesias comments, to me were a bit surprising. I'm pretty sure most of us are familiar. Jose Iglesias. Actually, let me get you the exact comments because I don't want to. I want to be fair. I don't want to misquote the guy, but he said some pretty surprising things over the last couple of days. And a guy who is a respectable guy, a guy who I really, really enjoyed watching. I was surprised that he said comments like this at this time of the year. So, former Mets player believes there's no chemistry in the team as they struggle to avoid failure in New York. Okay, that's just the title. Okay, but this is Jose's exact comments. He says, I think last year we had a special connection. We were a close-knit group. There was no competition between us. We all wanted the other to shine. So I think the key word in this quote is there was no competition between us. I think, honestly, Jose Iglesias, still a very popular New York Met, has connections inside that clubhouse. And I'm pretty sure he's heard things that there is competition between teammates. Now, I'm one to believe, is that necessarily a bad thing for teams to players to compete with one another? Sometimes it's not, but sometimes it can be bad because sometimes if it's two top players in the team, let's say it's Pete and let's say it's Juan Soto, then you got some players on the Juan Soto side and some players on the Pete Alonso side. Now, this is hypothetical. I don't know this, but I'm just saying this would be a scenario where, two teammates are competitive. That may divide the clubhouse, may divide the team, and may lead to chemistry issues. So that's where it could be a negative. But Iglesias was saying that last year, players didn't really care about competing with each other. They focused on only one goal, and that one goal was winning. And then Jose Iglesias said, he went on to say this, and again, it was a bit self-serving, but I'll tell you what he went on to say. All right, so Jose Iglesias went on to say this. I think the team, meaning the Mets, miss me. They miss JD Martinez, and they miss Jose Quintana. There was a really good vibe last year. We all had the same goal. That goal was to win. So again, I was very surprised to hear these comments at this point in the pennant race, right? Couple games, and right when the Mets are struggling, right when the Mets are supposedly, embroiled in like this potential chemistry issue, you hear it on Foul Territory, Fox Sports, MLB, MLB News. You hear that what's going on in that Mets clubhouse? It's got to be something. Got to be something. $350 million payroll, playing very stinky. Got to be chemistry issues. And Jose Iglesias, pretty much confirms it without confirming it. And I know there is going to be a very strong segment of the fan base that will say this. They'll say there's no proof, there's no evidence. I don't hear it, so it's not true. Now, I'll tell you this. The clubhouse is a very sacred place. You're not always going to hear about fights. You're not always going to hear about disagreements. You're not always going to hear about arguments. But it doesn't mean it's not happening. And it doesn't mean that it's not affecting that team on the field, because there is something affecting the New York Mets. Lack of leadership, looks like it. Lack of fundamentals, defensive capabilities, not seeing it there. So lack of fundamentals, lack of defensive capabilities, not there. Starting pitching, abysmal. Relief pitching besides Edwin Diaz, abysmal. And besides the top 4 players in the Mets lineup, and that's Nimmo, Lindor, Alonso, and Juan Soto, the rest of the lineup has been not great either. So there leaves a lot to be desired for this team. And again, you got to blame everybody. Enough blame to go around. I'm looking at Mendoza. I'm looking at David Stearns. I'm looking at Steve Cohen. Nobody escaped this, especially when you consider that this could go down as the worst collapse of all time. Now, again, the New York Mets are still in a wild card spot. As bad as everything's been, and as bad as tonight's been, as bad as the National Series has been, as bad as the starting pitchers have been, and as puzzling as this season has been, the New York Mets still are in a decent possibility of winning their third playoff position, or getting in as a third wildcard team. So again, you thank the expanded playoffs, that helps a lot. But again, the New York Mets still have ability to do something, special. Oh, wait. Danny, you said something pretty good. I'm going to get to a lot of your comments because I see a lot of good comments coming. But Danny, you just wrote a good one. Kobe Bryant and teammates were always having competition in the practice, fighting with each other and winning championships. Same thing with Jordan and the Bulls. These MLB players are divas. Well, I think you kind of answered it in the second half, but I'm gonna kind of detail that. Everybody's different. Every set of teammates are different. Every set of players are different. Sports are different as well, but you can't do the same thing. I know Jordan was very tough. Jordan was extremely tough on his teammates, but they were able to win because you had the greatest player of all time, and you had Scottie Pippen, and you had Dennis Rodman. You had a hell of a team. They were surrounded with a great team. You didn't have to have the best chemistry when you had that type of talent and those type of players. Now, the New York Mets, they don't even have a starting rotation. they don't even have a starting rotation. So that means other areas of their team have to be beyond great, beyond good. Now, if you're having chemistry issues and you don't have a rotation, you don't have leadership, you don't play with fundamental baseball, you're going to be in bad trouble. The Lakers, they won in 09. I forget the years the Lakers won, but, they had good players, Paul Gasol, Kobe Bryant. They had good players on their team. And, again, similar to Jordan, Kobe Bryant, the guy, was a winner. He was a complete winner. I got all the respect in the world for guys like that. Kobe Bryant, Derek Jeter, even though he's a Yankee, the guy, all he cared about was winning. Eat, sleep, whatever he did, it was win, 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 and win. You see Lindor on the field. As much as I love him, he likes to spend a lot of time laughing, joking, talking with the other team. In the middle of the game, our team could be down by 10 runs, and you'll still see Lindor chewing gum at second base, laughing it up with the other opponent. Other guys with killer instincts, guys like Jordan, guys like Derek Jeter, they're not going to be laughing when their team is down and their team is not have the ability to win. So, it's just a difference of personalities. But again, the Mets need to find those type of personalities and that type of dynamic to establish that type of winning culture. Hey, explosive. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not, basketball championships, I'm not really the best in. Lost in 09 to the Celtics. I used to watch the Bulls back in the day a lot. All right, great. Alan, thanks for the update. LA is up 3-1 over the D-backs. Great job. Lindor is worried about handbags. Yeah, I mean, Lindor is worried about handbags. Jeff McNeil's worried about his golf swing. It's the focus obviously is not there. The New York Mets, they don't look like a focused ball club a lot of the time, especially when they throwing the ball around the infield. I mean, they look like a team that should be, doing defensive drills every single day, 3 hours after the game, but that's just not how you treat professional ball players. Tom Brady, another very tough. All he cares about is winning, and that's why, if you're a Knicks fan right now, I mean, I'm not saying he's of their level, but a guy like Jalen Brunson, he's not the biggest physical specimen, but the reason why I like him is because I like his attitude, his demeanor. The guy obviously has talent, but it's all about the whole makeup of a guy that makes you special, like Tom Brady. Is he the most talented guy in the world? Does he have the best arm in the world? Is he the quickest? No, but the guy is just special when it comes between the ears. And that's what you need to take it to the next level. If we are Knicks fans in the 90s, we experienced the Bulls for real. Yep. I mean, that's when I probably watched the most basketball back in the 90s. Lovely breaking waves. I would fire the manager. I'm there. Honestly, I'm there right now. And I really like Carlos Mendoza. I really do. But the reason why I say this is I'm spending $350 million on this team. And I have to say to myself, is Carlos Mendoza a man that could lead the New York Mets to a World Series next year? Can he turn this around and be that World Series type of manager? And I don't think he can be next year. I don't. In 3 to 5 years, again, I said he's a manager that can develop over time, get better over time. But you got Lindor, who's going to be 32. If you sign Pete Alonso again, he's going to be 31, 32. Nimmo's already 32, 33. Diaz is in his 30s. Sanga's in his 30s. You're going to bring up some young rookies in the starting rotation, but a lot of your core is ready to win now. Bring back Buck, and that's another example. If you fired Buck, a year after 2022, a year after he won 101 games, just because you didn't think, he could take it to the next level. Same exact thinking. You had failure 1 year after the Mets had success. So the Mets had success in 2022. They failed in 2023. They pushed Buck out the door because Buck, they didn't see him as being that finishing piece. Okay, same thing if you have that same mentality. 2024 is a success. 2025 is a huge failure, bigger than 2023 in my opinion. Then you can make that same argument where Mendoza is out the door. I mean, at least Buck, in my opinion, had much, much better answers in the postgame. And in my opinion, Buck could never get outsmarted by the other manager. There was never, ever, ever, ever a time where I felt the other manager knew more about baseball or knew more about in-game decisions than Buck Showalter. Never. Did I question some of the decisions Buck made from time to time? Yes, but there was never a time where I'm like, oh, that other manager is going to outmanage him because he knows more about baseball. Buck was he was a special manager. He really was. He had a lot of tough breaks, and he had that type of reputation that he would take a team in year one to a very high level, and then it would gradually go downhill. And that reputation, sadly, I think, was one of the factors that the Mets considered and why he was out the door. But I think he did change. I think he did evolve. Terry Collins is a better manager. Bring him. I mean, I like Terry. I really do. I don't think in the what is he? He's in his mid-70s. I don't think he's a guy that I could say, oh, he's your World Series manager next year. I mean, if you want to go with any type of manager that has the similar experience to Carlos Mendoza, similar experience, I was I was more or less leaning towards like a Beltran than hiring a Carlos Mendoza. And another reason why I liked Buck. Okay, first of all, we know that he had a great relationship with Lindor, right? That's very important. But, the reason why the Yankees teams always worked in the late 90s, you had a lot of big, big time egos is, Torrey was very good at keeping everybody in check, right? Any type of rivalries, competitiveness, he was able to keep everybody happy, everybody in check. He had the status, he was a great player. He was, turned into a great manager. He was able to have that type of stature in the clubhouse. Carlos Mendoza doesn't have any presence, doesn't have any stature, wasn't a great player, wasn't, a great manager. I mean, he's a nice guy. He's a great guy. That's what he brings to the table. But, if you're going to have all these high played superstars, the Lindors, the Alonsos, the Sotos, I would like a guy with a bit more stature, like a Buck Showalter. There's other guys around the league, but that's why I would prefer him. And if you're going to go with a rookie manager, then you go with a guy like Carlos Beltran, who was a Hall of Fame player. He was a guy who meant a lot to the New York Mets team, New York Mets organization, and that's a guy that demands respect from day one. He demands respect from day one. So, I would go in that direction if you want to go with a rookie manager. Yeah, you know what? You bring up a good point. Imagine you had a Terry Francona managing the Mets. Imagine you had what Terry's doing with the Reds. And in my opinion, the Reds have a lot of holes. Yes, they have Ellie De La Cruz. They have a couple very exciting players. But the Mets, in my opinion, have more talent, much more talent, much more talent. And you see a guy like Terry Francona doing much, much more with much, much less, especially much less resources. All right, folks. If you could once again hit that like button, as it really, really does help out the channel. I do again say thank you. And I want to say thank you to everybody for the great comments. I'm going to get going for now, but again, thank you everybody. I really appreciate it. You had a lot of great stuff. Everybody brought great stuff to the day. Considering the Mets had a really big stinker today, you made this night pretty enjoyable. So thank you all. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Hopefully the Mets, very big next two games. You got McClain, you got Brandon Sproat, you got the young rookies. The Mets need length. The offense, I like the offense to get out early, be productive, because the offense did little today, nothing. So, let's see. We need length from our rookies, and we need the offense to come out early and often. So everyone, have a great night. Thank you again. And I will speak to everybody soon. Let's go Mets. Again, at the end of the day, we still are in a wild card position. Thank God the teams behind us stink more.